How's it going, everybody? So, over the last few months, you've been watching me document my attempt to start a flow hive. As I've continued to kind of go through this whole process of learning beekeeping and seeing if flow hive is something that I believe people should try here in the northern climates. I know that everyone has hobbies and everyone has certain interests that teach them lessons, but honeybee, I didn't quite see you giving me these life lessons as far as how to look upon the society that I live in, looking at the colony that I'm associated with, and recognize that there are faults and there are errors within our colony that I could really look into getting some guidance from you furry little creatures. And today's episode is certainly not a lighthearted video, which I've been accustomed to doing here lately, but it's really the times. You know, the times right now are something that if we're not having the conversation, if we're not creating the dialogue within our communities, we're really just repeating steps that we could have learned from and progressed through. And I'm not going to sit by and talk about bees when we have problems at home that need to be taken care of. Specifically, I'm talking about the shootings that are going on in Minnesota and Louisiana and Dallas. There was other ones in Missouri, and I mean, of course, if we were to really open up the books, there are shootings that are going on a daily basis. But these ones are different. You know, we're using social media, we're using technology at our disposal, and I think that it's engaging people differently than it has ever done before. That being said, I'm not looking to be an activist. I respect and I admire and I'm thankful for those who believe that they're activists and those who are taking the initiative, taking the leadership, and really putting it to the industries or the culture or the individuals who are creating injustice in our country and for the world, for that matter. And I think a lot of emotions are almost spent with that whole experience, but I'm not here to kind of harp on some lecture on what we should be doing as a society and to paint a picture of a perfect route. I think that would be a little naive and a little bit obtuse of me to do, to provide people with any form of direction there. But as a beekeeper, I have been observing the bees in a more intimate way than I have ever done in my entire life, and I really feel that there are similarities between the bee colony and human colonies, if you will, and what I feel we can learn. Unfortunately, for our sake, a honeybee colony is far more efficient, far more effective, and far more hospitable amongst each other than I believe humans are right now. First and foremost, there's a reputation for honeybees, which is interesting because I really don't see how it's possible. But when I tell people that I work with honeybees, the first impression that they get in their mind is fear. They immediately think they're scared, like, oh my gosh, have you been stung? How dangerous of a hobby. And I think it's unfair, it's unjust. Very similar, we look at individuals in our society, in our culture, with a very similar lens. We look at black people and immediately we come up with these associations of fear and violence, and that they're aggressors, that there's so many negative attributes to this community member. Another thing has to do with protesters. Protesters, whether you're white, black, Asian, Muslim, Christian, it really doesn't matter who you are, but protesters are getting this rap that they're aggressive, that they're unnecessary, that they're a disturbance to society. And let's remain facts with facts. A protester, an activist, is a necessary piece to our functioning community. Just like in honeybees. In honeybees, there are particular members of the community that will be defenders. And as our fellow protesters and activists are raising the alarm and doing what they need to do, there's people like maybe you and people like me and people that you might know who are capable of making the changes that they are raising attention towards. And we have to take that baton. We have to take the baton from these activists and say, okay, we have established the alarm, but we can now start making the changes. There's been a lot of discussion about going to your local politicians, going to your local representatives. I firmly agree with that, but I'm not happy with the speed of change. It's not happening quick enough, and it's certainly not happening soon enough. We're talking about major issues that need immediate change, and we can do that. And I think that us humans can look at these bees and say, you know what, we're struggling right now as a whole, and members of our community are struggling greater than others, but fundamentally our system is flawed, and it's not necessarily an individual president. The other thing that I wanted to kind of address today is we are like the worker bees in a bee colony. We are in charge of which bee becomes our leader. We're deciding who is going to get gold nectar. This nectar is only made for the queens. The worker bees decide who gets the goods. And I think that our culture has forgotten that. I think that our current activists also have forgotten that. And that is a responsibility that we, the people, have decided to turn over to those who are in control. And that's going to create significant conflict, and it's going to cause an unhealthy community. But we need to be effective. Similar to Martin Luther King, when he created with his community, they decided to create boycotts. Boycotts. Think of boycotting as a worker bee having all of this gold nectar, and they get to decide who becomes the next leader. And they decided, no, we're going to channel all that nectar in a different direction. When that happens, you will start to see change. I guarantee it. When you start to look at yourself as an individual, you are the one responsible. We can all take personal responsibilities, and I challenge you as an individual, if you are upset with the system, if you are upset with your leaders, if you are upset with where the movement is going, if you are upset about anything, you can be a worker bee. You can say, okay, instead of me buying a Coca-Cola, I'm actually going to go buy this homemade brew beer that's going on down the block. Or I might go to this juicer who's making their own juice. There's thousands of different ways that you can be a worker bee. It's up to you to decide who's going to get that nectar. Who's going to get your hard work. Think about that. And look, if you need inspiration, you can look at nature. You can look at your elders, and they can tell you too that in the old days, you can shift your political climate more efficiently by suffocating their financial strengths. Bernie did a great job by mobilizing the grassroots, a perfect example. And I encourage you to kind of think about that and say, okay, well, what more can I do? How can I help at a local level? I have the ability to make the change. I have it. And this is just going to be a small way of me taking those steps, and hopefully we can generate some energy. I'm ready to generate some energy here and make some effective change right here in my neighborhood. So tell your friends about this station, and let's start the dialogue. Start below. Start on this one, because we're all gathered. We're all here. We're all ready. We're all waiting. And that's the key thing. We're all waiting for someone to do something. Okay, well, that wraps up another episode, and I guess I'll have to just kind of get back to the bees. So, stay cool out there. It's pretty hot. I want to get another bee sting in the eyeball. See you soon.